There you go.
It's actually what I usually, whenever I have my Rereading America book on reserve for you all, and I leave my copy at home, and I need to access one of the articles, I just look it up. There it is. In the basement of the ivory tower. No problem. So Rereading America didn't include it?
No, sir.
Such a nasty edited one. They've kept it through a bunch of cuts. Yeah, there it is. Don't worry, it's not that long. I can even have you read a shorter version of it. You can find it under the regular title. It's going to take you longer than 20 seconds. Here's one. Don't be afraid to give me a heads up to let me know. I can include this article. Don't worry, it's shorter than the piece I have in Magnum Publications. That's like 5-6 pages double spaced. This one is less than 1,000 words. Actually, it's pretty close to, probably pretty close to 1,000 words. So go ahead and take a look at it. Pull it on up. I'll prepare you for the exam on Friday. All right, how close are y'all to being done? Pretty close? Kind of close. Nowhere near close. I really never took ESP, so you gotta tell me something, folks.
I'm just finishing this sentence.
Okay, good. So, raise your hand if you're really close to being done. Yay. Raise your hand if you're kind of close. Raise your hand if you're not even close at all to being done. Okay, undecided? Okay, because about 2/3 raise your hand for the first option, and the 30 you didn't say anything. Man, is this a conundrum. This is a job for Dr. Aker. Closest thing we have to applause. What is the answer?
Are we supposed to write like an essay on
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be essay test. Essays on test. Did I give you a couple essays? I didn't forget to give essays.
No,
Oh,
there's
okay.
3 on there.
Oh, that's right. Okay, good. Go ahead and answer. I was actually going over some of the papers, and I was talking to another professor, and this person said, I didn't complain about y'all's papers, I just said, yeah, I have a couple left to go. And then they have, I only have 2 left of those who have handed them in to me. Now, of course, a couple of y'all I emailed this morning have not loaded up your paper onto Connect. This is one due Friday, it's like Wednesday, so not sure what you're waiting for, but get it up. I did have one person who contacted me explaining the reasons for being late, asking a few good questions, so I understand that, but gotta get it in. You know, everybody else got theirs in on Friday, so unless you got a good reason, they should be up. Load them up onto Connect as well. That's also an important part of the process. It shows that you know how to load up stuff onto Connect. So track down your paper, put it on in. I think I have 2 or 3 people who turned in or handed in a paper to me, but just didn't load it up on Connect. load it on up, because otherwise I just assume that the day you load it up is the day you turn it on in. Just get it done. Knock it out. Yeah, this person said, "Oh, you guys see what I got a grade?" And showed a stack of papers, and they had to write about civility. And I thought, oh my gosh. I could have took a glance at a paper or two of these cornerstone papers. I kept thinking, civility. And I was trying to think of like, I string together the worst possible paper. Like, since the dawn of time, man has considered the term civility. Civility, or the act of being civil, can be defined by Merriam-Webster, Noah, as of being civil. I'm almost tempted to have y'all help me out, like do a contest, like think of like the worst paragraph you could write about one of our pillars and put it together. So like when I turn it into Cornerstone and I show it to students, I go, this is what I don't want.
Well,
But I asked the professor, and this person was like, God, I'm going to die when I go through these papers. I said, did you write a sample paper to show what you're looking for? No. I was like, I can't remember the last time. It must have been like when I was teaching at Delaware or Florida State, where I didn't provide a writing sample. And in fact, as much as I beat up on your papers, I can get through them okay. I had some really horrible, bad family news last night. Really tough. I couldn't even watch the Cubs-Indians game. Like, I actually turned it on, and just my stomach started to turn, and I just turned it off. And a baseball fan, Jad's a lifelong Cubs fan, so a lot of reasons to watch. Beginning the playoffs, I predicted Indians, Cubs. I like being right. But I could get through some of y'all's papers. It was kind of interesting to get through. So I think it's interesting. But, I mean, sometimes it's like you're in your work, but what you write is generally interesting. Make sure that what you write is interesting. All you have to do is just follow the 3 C's. Creativity, critical thinking, and communication. You've got a good paper right there. The great ones do the best job with embodying those principles, but it doesn't take that much. Give yourself some idea about how you would test an argument. Part of the reason I had this up here, I had somebody ask me, well, what's a good example of kind of an analytical paper? This would be an example of one. I've included a couple others. I don't have you read me just because I'm looking for clickbait. I'm not having you all read me because it helps my ego or anything. I'm just offering a different viewpoint. I'm showing that you can be involved in this too. You can critique some of these authors. You can jump into it. And I hope many of you do. I actually really like teaching American Experience because on graduation day, it's great to see a diverse array of students from all different majors, not just political science, walking across the stage. And over time, I have many, many Facebook friends or people who just took me for American Experience. And you'd be amazed what American Experience students can do out there. It just, story after story, I have too many to tell. But it's great when I see somebody succeeding, I see somebody jumping up, being able to get into their field. And nobody's jumping into political science among these American Experience students, unless they're political science major. But it's amazing to see what people have done. And a lot of times they can remember, they can remember certain parts, not just of my experience, but something about LaGrange College that helped them get through the experience. As I've always said, what we really need to do with all the hiring that we do, or firing, or whoever we keep in our areas, we really need to build up our alumni department, because our greatest asset at this college is our alumni, what you've all done. They're our best selling point. I showed somebody who's relatively new who didn't know. I showed like the 4 pages of students who are political science majors and what they've gone on to do. This person was just like stunned. Like, yeah, we've got like a long list. We're doing alumni profiles for our newsletters. I mean, it would take me like 4 years of newsletters, 1 a month, just to, not even 1 a month if we count the summers maybe, just to get all the stories out there, what y'all been able to do. Don't miss this opportunity to take what you're getting in a small setting. Realize that this is an opportunity to write. This is an opportunity to get your paper beaten up on. This is an opportunity to work on a presentation. When we get to the storytelling, I'm still waiting on IRB approval. Then your before Thanksgiving, then we'll start working on the storytelling analysis. You'll get a chance to look over some data and provide some input to the people who run the Azalea Storytelling Festival. These are, what you're getting is opportunity to do more work. And I know it doesn't sound like a great option, does it? Wow, great, I have to work harder. Yeah, but it's the experience, what you get to do. The opportunity to write essay tests instead of just bubble in multiple choice. You don't think of it as a blessing, right? Yes, you get the opportunity to write not just one essay, but several. Isn't that cool? Don't realize it at the time. But think about your competition being person in a large state university, 300 people. What is that person being trained to do? What can you show in your e-portfolio, your regular portfolio? What can you show that person, that you've done, that person can't do? Somebody who graduated from high school and jumped into the workforce, has worked several years in an office, or in a construction job, or for some other business. What can you show? What can you demonstrate that the other person can't do? Use these papers as opportunities. Correct them. This is the last paper I'll give back to you this Friday, because I'm still waiting on some, so I apologize. I graded some of these. I graded all the ones that were given to me over the weekend. I'm still waiting on some others. But use this as an opportunity. That means, I know it sounds like this is going to be heresy. Take your paper, when I give it back, when I have corrections, regardless of what the grade is, say, okay, these are things I can fix in the paper. Really? Not for a grade? Yeah, you're not going to be doing things in life for a grade. You'll be doing things to get the job done, get the task done. So I challenge each of you to not only do that, but to build it into a portfolio or e-portfolio to show demonstration of scholarship, what you've done. And this is crazy company. Take a break when it's like, yeah, I've got an hour to kill, got nothing else to do. Fix it on up so it looks good and ready for somebody to use to evaluate what you've done at the great college. Can you all do that? It's up to you. Not everybody has to. You're not required. I'm not going to check up on you doing it. This is just, I'm giving you a suggestion of what you can do. All right, let's create an answer key. Computer's messing up, but hopefully we can get it today. Okay, which of the following authors takes a positive view of American education? Go ahead, George.
Is it
Is it who?
A?
Who?
I said you got first.
You said who?
You?
Who said it?
I did.
Yeah, you're right. Good. All right, the documentary, America, the Story of Us. What factor enabled the North to win the Civil War? Oh, I was actually about ready to go on. Technology. What were some of the technologies that the North used?
The railroad system.
Okay, so we got telegraph. How did they use telegraph?
They use it to streamline orders and messages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Across
I mean,
the continent.
yeah, you're able to communicate in near real time. I mean, think about this. We had this one weird, wacky professor when I was a communication major in college, and this guy was like studied everything about the telegraph. Man, did we think he was nuts. He actually eloped with one of the students in our class. This used to happen a lot more. I think it's only happened once or twice here. Y'all looking at me like, what? I don't know. I mean, you know, as a professor, I think that there's like highly inappropriate things you can do. You know, he's one of them. But nevertheless, this guy was obsessed with the telegraph. And let me tell you, his colleagues and most of us in class just thought he was like a little out there. He was a little nuts. Why are you studying this 1800s technology? But why? Why indeed? Think about what it is. It's a communication device where you're just going back and forth, you know, you're sending messages in real time. Sure, it's in Morse code. Sure, it's not like you're writing like a big sonnet or something like that. You're just giving out quick, direct orders. Communication. What was the South's high technology? The what? No, that was actually better than the North. No, I meant with regards to communication. How did the Southerners communicate? What?
Messages, yeah. Riders, right?
Yeah, riders. So essentially, I mean, you go from like, oh my gosh, okay, we need the troops to do this. So you get in Richmond and you ride down to Atlanta by horse. Now they had like some sort of like Pony Express set up, I'm sure, so it's not one guy riding all the way down or so. Giving information back and forth. Well, that can't be good for spying. Quality control. WikiLeaks could hack you. I'm sure if they had one person on the tape. Yeah, one time the writer dropped the orders and said the North found the orders, the entire battle plan. Very hard to do that with telegraph unless you're intercepting this. It took a while for Native Americans to realize that they were being played. Finally, toward the end of the conflict, they started chopping down the telegraph poles and cutting the wires, but way too late. Didn't the South know the telegraph existed? Why didn't they use it? Well, they didn't set up a lot. They didn't build a lot of new telegraph lines. Some of the way that they did business was they wanted to do business in person. Oftentimes, Jefferson Davis would summon the general himself over to Richmond to have a discussion, or a couple of generals, and then send them on back. Same problem happened with the railroad. How did the railroad help?
We was actually like the government audit where the South was still privatized.
Okay. So both sides had railroad. One used the railroad for war effort. The government, you're right, took over. You could still have a private sector, but if you got two trains going, okay, the government train that's got a bunch of troops or a bunch of supplies, that goes first. The South didn't do that. When it comes to telegraph, when it came to railroads, private sector goes first. Private sector is often the wealthiest, most powerful individuals. And in the Confederacy, which is a states' rights government, you've got a very weak central authority. They had no power even to take over, or as they call the phrase, nationalize railroads. So if you had like a corps of troops from Lee and he sent them over to fight at Chickamauga, you had to march all the way from Virginia to eastern Tennessee. Anybody gone through that area? Camped there this summer in Cherokee. Anybody been in Cherokee, North Carolina? Isn't that a really cool place? God, I loved it. Hiking would suck though. You ever been up in those mountains? Go up and down mountains, kind of go through canyons. You're out exposed to rain, get injuries while hiking. I'm sure you get a couple blisters along the way. North, hop on the train, go. Any other technologies used? Go ahead, Tony.
Industry, mass production.
Which one?
Industry, mass
Okay,
production.
North had more industry than South. Anybody ever watch Gone with the Wind? You ever see that scene when they find out that war is there and all the southern gentlemen and boys, and they've got all their gray and butternut uniforms and they're firing up into the air? It's a southern thing. Woo, yeah, war's declared. One of us can take on 10 of them. Well, by the end of the war, that's kind of what it was. You really needed to. You're an army of one. Because the North allowed free flow of immigration. Escaped slaves and freedmen to serve in the military, so you had an extra 100,000. Yeah, by the end of the war, the number of blacks who were in the Northern Army exceeded the Southern Army. Now, there were Southern generals who were like, yeah, you could free the slaves. Give property to slaves. Give them weapons. Help them fight and defend. A couple did. But most of the government's like, nope, those slaves will remain slaves. used a lot of resources to keep slaves penned up during the Civil War. Not the militarily smartest thing you can do. But when you have pretty much an oligarchy ruled by a few, this is what you get. To be perfectly honest, I know y'all are like looking downcast. Many of you Southerners have a lot of Southern pride. To be perfectly honest, given the industry, given the population disparity, given all the advantages the North had, I don't know what idiot on that video said the South had all the advantages. The only advantages the South had was they could shoot better, the individual soldier was better prepared, you know, hunting, being outdoors, they could ride really well. They got a lot of good generals. Most of the good generals were in the South. Many military academies in the South, few in the North. South got half the good folks from West Point. That is the only thing that kept the South. The South should have been flattened in the first year of the war. The fact that they held on for 4 years is militarily impressive, given every technological advantage that the North had. Yeah, there's nothing, if you're a Southerner, there's nothing to be disappointed about. It's kind of like, it'd be like if Western Kentucky played Alabama and kept it close within like 10 points until the fourth quarter. And we're actually leading at points. That's what it would be like. No offense to Western Kentucky. Anybody here from Western Kentucky? But seriously, that's what the Civil War was like. One of the lowest ranking teams holding its own with like one of the top teams in the country, even having some slight advantages, being stopped on 4th and 1 at Gettysburg. And then by the fourth quarter, the onslaught begins. But it's true. Any other way that technology impacted the war?
War photography.
Yeah, that's true. Photography was kind of, it brought the images home. Still had lots of sketch artists. That's how they used to do things. Yeah, started seeing stuff by Matthew Brady. Anything else?
The mini ball.
Yeah, that's a good one. What's the deal with the mini ball?
There's a new bullet.
Mini does not mean small. It's somebody's last name. Mini. Go ahead.
There's a new bullet that caused a lot of damage.
It's just like shatter bones.
Yeah. Well, what's the deal with the? It wasn't just that. I mean, you know, you have other kinds of. I mean, bullets hit you. What was special about this bullet? What? Oh, it was heavy. Yeah, but early balls were heavy too.
Could you reload it faster?
Could reload it faster. What else?
Better accuracy?
Better accuracy. See, in the Revolutionary War days, almost everybody had a musket. A couple people would have rifles. Rifles were really, really rare because rifles were super expensive. They took forever to load. You might get 3 shots off in a whole battle. They were useless in hand-to-hand combat. One swing of those things on somebody else's skull and you're never firing that rifle again. It becomes a big, expensive stick. I take my students out to the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. I'll be doing that this spring. So, you know, a couple of you will really want to see some of this stuff. You know, my students get a lecture on this. You can't attach a bayonet to a rifle. It doesn't work. I mean, just the knife would just fall off. But they're deadly accurate. I mean, you can shoot across several football fields. Line up your sights and stuff, you'd be amazed what you can hit with a rifle because it's got spinning action. Like a quarterback throwing a tight spiral. And Aaron Rodgers throwing it. Deadly accurate. Muskets, well, the reason you can reload fast is you're just dropping a ball in. When it fires, it rattles around inside the barrel, goes out any old direction. No tight spiral to it. You can put a bayonet on it, you can bonk somebody on the head with it. I quoted in doing research, I dug up something from a British officer who was evaluating muskets in 1840 for the Minet ball. He said, you know, they're fairly accurate about 10 to 30 yards, or 10 to 30 feet. 50 feet, you're kind of getting, you got to get a lucky shot. 60 feet, you may as well aim at the moon. Rifle, several football fields away, you can nail something. So how did it become more deadly? The technology was deadly, but what also did not happen? What did or did not happen? Okay, now you got this lethal terror. something that you can reload fast as a musket. You can stab people with a bayonet. You can bonk them on the head with this thing. It's just everything like a musket with rifle technology, rifle capability. Now you can hit stuff several football fields away and reload it pretty quick. Maybe fire three times in maybe 2 minutes. Now all of a sudden you can shoot a lot more, can't you? Yeah. One of these things hits you, it's going to cause some damage. Same with a musket, except now you're hitting somebody much further away. But how did the Civil War? You gotta look at casualty figures. Seriously, look at the deadliest Revolutionary War battles. Look at the deadliest Civil War battles. Look at percentage of those engaged in battle and how many were killed. Casualty figures were frightening. Wonder what the most deadly battle was? The whole Civil War, not how many died, which is Gettysburg, or most in one day, Antietam, but percentage of soldiers engaged who were killed or wounded. Anybody been to Allatoona, Georgia? If you go to the Battle of Allatoona Pass, in terms of, it wasn't as big as Antietam or Gettysburg. You had about 5,000 on either side. Highest percentage of dead who were engaged in battle. Because a rail car showed up at the last minute. Reinforcements from the north. You know what they had? Semi-automatic weapons. Repeating rifles. They had Winchesters. You know what a Winchester is? Semi-automatic. 2 shots. One bullet per second less than an assault rifle. I had people go, oh, imagine what would happen if you had a bunch of people with M16s in the Civil War. I was like, well, by the end of the war, you kind of did. Yeah, that's the Battle of Allatoona Pass. A couple of small Union forts pinned down by Hood's men after the Battle of Atlanta to cut communication supply. Rail car showed up with a bunch of people with repeating rifles. You know what a repeater is? You don't have to reload. Fire 16 shots, you're going. It's not like a burst, but it's the next closest thing. Again, why is this so deadly? It's not just that the new technology is deadly. Come on, what else did the movie say?
They're still fighting with old tactics, like just they were at close range, they had these weapons that are all out there.
Yeah. Conventional tactics say that you got to get really close to your opponent. You're marching over long distances, get as close as you can possibly to the other person, like right over here, and start firing. What's that going to do with the new technology? Yeah, a lot of people died just getting close enough to fight. You're supposed to march over long fields, fire, and then a group is reloading. You fire 3 volleys, and then you run on in with your bayonet. What the hell's going to happen when you can hit them several football fields away? Most of your army is dead before you get in close enough to be at musket range, old school musket range. So you understand what folks? New technology was out there. The old ways of thinking still persisted. It's a lesson for this for every day, not just Civil War, not just military. Could it involve your education system? All kinds of new technology of gathering information, and we're using old traditional tactics. Last night, odds-on favorite to be our next congressman, Drew Ferguson, was there. Crap, we only had 7 students. That was embarrassing. Thanks, you all. Just kidding. But he brought up a good point. He was mentioning, he goes, I went to church, grew up going to church, and here I am, he's whatever, 50-something, 60-something. He goes, I'm going to church the same way I did when I was a kid. You got some old person up in a row, you're singing songs that were invented back in the 1600s. You're doing a lot of traditional things. So he said, my kids were getting bored out of their skull. And he goes, not only that, it's different from every other thing that we do. He said, we've got a lot of new technology, new ideas. These ought to be embraced. I keep thinking of our new pastor at First United Methodist Church, who, when he gives his sermon, he's got an iPad. Oh, does that have our old traditional people rolling? he showed a YouTube clip. Like, I know we did this in the non-traditional service that I usually go to. Man, he wheeled that thing into the big church, you know, with the altar and stuff, when we watched YouTube video. Now, we're young enough, our kids enough. And my son loves it. He goes, Dad, can we see that one about the preacher linebacker again? Have y'all seen that? Yeah, the guy's a linebacker, and it's like whenever someone's like doing something bad, suddenly this linebacker comes flying out of from nowhere and tackles a person. The preacher linebacker. It's funny as hell. My son remembers this like from a month and a half ago. Doesn't mean you should throw out all old ways. Quincy Brown, who used to be a pastor here. Greg Porterfield, who was the first pastor at First United Methodist Church, who brought my wife into the Christian faith. First time she ever started, so I took her, that she got interested in, so she actually got baptized under this person. He's delivered sermons, I can tell you today, they worked out 15, 16 years ago. So, new technology is one thing, but just the importance of this new technology should not be overshadowed by what you're really going for. Boy, did I go on a lot longer. Forgot about that early 15 minutes. So tell me, really quick, Jacob Wood, de Tocqueville looked at all the following factors except what?
D,
I'm sorry?
the differences between Northerners and Southerners.
You're correct. In the documentary America, the Story of Us, Division, which of the following subjects was not covered? Tony?
I put B.
You put right. In the hidden curriculum of work, what factor led to the greatest differences in education outputs, according to Andy? Andy, what you got for me?
P, types of teaching techniques.
Yes, we're done. I'm getting all optimistic here. All right, Wes, prisoner's dilemma looked at all of these factors except
D,
nope.
C.
All right, Jacob. Sources. Oh God, forget question 8. Oh well, Elizabeth. Question 7. Which factor did Dr. Torres find was most frequently mentioned by seceding states? I said, you actually read these documents, they didn't even call themselves southern states, they called themselves slave-holding states. Yeah, I know, I forgot 8, I got 9, 10, 11. Would y'all like a sample essay to see what I'm looking for? Okay. When I load up this, this key, oh, can y'all give me your papers, your tests, so I can take a look, see how you did? Did you grade yourselves?
I thought we were going to study.
I'm sorry?
I thought we were going to study.
I didn't get it.
I thought we were going to study.
Okay, but email me how you did.
All right.
Yes. Don't worry, I'll make who is also missing something. I'll make her show up. Go free right here.